Think of a typical family like a car. It needs constant maintenance, fuel, and direction to keep moving forward. For millions of households, the person keeping the parts oiled and the engine running is the homemaker. Economists categorize this output as human capital. The daily routine of cooking, cleaning, and caring for dependents creates the physical and mental foundation that allows formal, paid workers to contribute to the economy. Yet, if you look at official employment statistics, GDP calculations, or corporate balance sheets, her labor vanishes completely. The global economic machine relies on a massive workforce it does not financially acknowledge. The consequences of that invisibility are most visible when a homemaker is fatally injured in a car accident. Under the Motor Vehicles Act, surviving family members file a claim to calculate the financial compensation owed for their loss of dependency and care. For decades, lower courts approached these claims with a rigid perspective. Because the deceased homemaker lacked a formal salary, she was strictly categorized as a non-earner. This zero valuation comes from patriarchal assumptions that unpaid care is a natural duty, coupled with inconsistent data gaps that make it difficult for judges to put a price on household labor. After a devastating personal loss, families watch the legal system calculate the lifetime value of their household's engine at exactly zero. The Supreme Court of India stepped in to reinterpret the law where the legislature had failed to keep pace with social equity. On June 11, 2026, a bench of Justices Sanjay Karl and N. Kodeshwar Singh delivered a ruling that changed how this labor is measured. This chart shows the historical valuation trend for homemakers in accident claims, flatlining at zero because lower courts lacked a standard calculation. To remove this inconsistency, the court established a mandatory minimum notional value of 30,000 rupees per month for domestic contributions. This amount must now be added when assessing accident claims, regardless of whether the woman had a formal income. By doing this, the judiciary used constitutional equality to translate unpaid care into a hard economic requirement. This 30,000 rupee floor moves the homemaker out of the non-earner category, assigning a concrete value to her presence in the home. In the written judgment, the court officially designated homemakers as nation builders. The title reflects the logic that domestic labor is the essential infrastructure required to raise future citizens and sustain the current workforce. This legal framing challenges the traditional bias that views grueling physical labor, like manual food preparation, simply as a woman's natural duty. The highest court moved care work from a cultural expectation to a recognized pillar of national infrastructure. While this ruling applies to the Motor Vehicles Act, it creates a judicial precedent that can be cited across the entire legal system. By linking this valuation to Article 14 of the Constitution, the court established a new standard for what substantive equality looks like in practice. This brings Indian law into direct alignment with Sustainable Development Goal 5, which calls for the recognition and valuation of unpaid care and domestic work. Because the court has now set a standardized monthly value for domestic labor, lawyers can point to this benchmark in other civil cases. If a woman is seeking a fair division of assets during a divorce or inheritance dispute, she can now argue for her share based on this legally recognized economic contribution. A law originally intended for accident compensation has provided the judiciary with a mechanism to advance gender justice across the board. This legal valuation creates a practical dilemma for how future governments allocate their resources. If the state officially recognizes millions of unpaid women as economic contributors, it must decide how to support them within a limited budget. Policy experts are now weighing two paths: providing direct cash transfers to compensate for this labor, or investing in formal skilling programs to help homemakers enter the paid workforce. The invisible engine is now a permanent part of the national balance sheet. The courts have established that care work is the bedrock of the economy, and society is beginning to account for the cost.